N6PUD. This is the broke amateur N6PUD. This, whatever you want to call it. Hey, good afternoon. It is Fine Business Friday here in the beautiful city of Lake Elsinore, California, about 94 degrees. And I'm wearing my hat to show off my cool amateur radio call sign. The music that you're hearing on this podcast this afternoon, and I got to do this, I got to say thank you so much for the fine folks over at purple-planet.com for allowing me to use their music in my boring podcast. My name is Timothy Pate. TimothyLPate.com is the website. It's kind of a crappy website. And I want to remind everybody in this podcast that I'm not a seasoned amateur radio operator. I don't have big sponsors. My kid has his stuff over here in the background, and my wall is not painted. It's only painted on one side, not the other. So I know you're going to watch this podcast, and you're going to probably say, hey, dude, what's up with the stuff in the back of your camera? Well, unfortunately, I can't get rid of that stuff in the background. And I don't have big sponsors offering me to test their radios. Hey, if you want to throw a radio at me so I can test it, hey. My email is n6pud@yahoo.com, n6pud@yahoo.com. TikTok, n6pud. YouTube, n6pud. Facebook, n6pud. Anyway, just do the math. Or, I don't know, something. Anyway, so today, it is Friday. Best day of the week for those of you who work Monday through Friday. Maybe it's your first day of the week. I don't know. Either way, it's the first day of your week on Friday. Well, hey, I hope you have a wonderful week. Anyway, listening and moving on. Enough about that. I had actually started recording an episode and finished it, and I deleted it because I went off topic, and yeah, I was babbling. So I have several different podcasts on my channel here on anchor.fm, but I deleted 90% of them because I didn't care for the content that I offered, and I tend to babble on about certain things that I'm insightful with. So I wanted to bring that up. So anyway, again, the music, this song, it's called Punching Bag, and you can take a look at it, download it, buy it, lease it over at purple-planet.com for all your, I don't know, music needs. Also, check out anchor.fm. The easiest way to make a podcast is on anchor.fm. You don't need any minimum listenership. You can monetize your stuff. You can use music from Spotify. There's all kinds of cool stuff going on over at anchor.fm, and that's where this podcast is hosted from. One of the best things about using anchor.fm is Spotify, like the biggest podcast platform out there and music platform out there where a lot of people listen to music. I know I do. Your podcast will be on there if you use anchor.fm, and they'll help you get your podcast out there. And they don't charge you a fee to host your podcast. There's many places that you can do and place your podcast, but the best one is Spotify and anchor.fm. So that's out of the way, and I didn't get paid to plug that. That was out of the kindness of my heart. So let's get into this. My name is Tim, N6PUD, and this is the Broke Amateur Podcast, Friday, 4/8/2022. So I wanted to also mention that I am not a seasoned amateur. I have not had my license for 30 years. The reason I do this podcast and the reason I have a TikTok channel set up is because I love this hobby. It is one of the coolest hobbies that you could ever have, I think. If you're into communications, in my opinion, it's the best hobby you can have, because what intrigues me about communication is the fact that I can key up and give my call sign, and I know that somebody's going to be out there listening, provided they're listening. So it was one of the cool things about CB radio too, is that it's such a cool hobby, and you could be whoever you want on CB. You want to be an idiot, you can key up the mic and be an idiot. Not so much on ham, unless you're a bootlegger, but we won't get into that right now. So going forward with this podcast, I got my amateur license in 2020. I took the technician test online. I also took my general online. I don't like classroom settings, so I didn't take either of them in a classroom setting. I did it over the internet. It was easy, so easy to get your amateur license now. Pretty much during the height of the COVID-19 virus pandemic, and I got my license and blah, 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 blah. My technician license, well, my call sign showed up in the database on the 21st. I did the test on the 18th. Yeah, on the 18th or the 19th. I think it was the 19th. Yeah, because it was on a Saturday, Sunday. Yeah, so it was on the 18th or the 19th, one of the two. And it showed up in the database the 21st. A little bit under a year later, I got my general license, and I took that on the 4th or on the 3rd. I think it was the 3rd or the 2nd. Whatever day it landed, I don't know. But it showed up in the database, and I was licensed AG, accredited general, and I was up and running on HF. HF's a lot of fun. So if you're interested in learning about that, one of the best places that I found to study for my license was this app you can get. I actually paid for it, hamstudy.org. You get to learn a lot over there. And, just going and watching videos, and I also studied using Fast Track to your technician, Fast Track to your general, and I'm now studying for my extra. Awesome, right? Thank you. You're too kind. So I'm studying for my extra. Slowly but surely, I'm studying for my extra. So we'll get that out of the way. Let's see here. Radios. So, well, let me just start off with this. And this is kind of where I veered off the track. It's kind of where I veered off. And I kind of went into what I call no man's land, and I probably shouldn't have done that. Yeah, there's a rubber band right here. Yeah. Anyway, I kind of veered off, and I feel like I shot my mouth off, and I shouldn't have in the other recording of this. Okay, so I'm a member of a lot of amateur radio groups on Facebook, and there's a lot of cool groups on Facebook that are warm and welcoming, and there's some not so much. So one of the biggest things about amateur radio is you'll hear a lot of people say this. It's a license to learn, and it is. Understanding each one of these bands right here, how they operate, what it takes to make it work properly, and applying what you've learned to those areas. So, and I won't give out the name of the group, but there was a post that I saw the other day that literally made my skin crawl. And it was from a 13-year-old kid. Doesn't matter, male, female, just the 13-year-old kid. Posting a question in that group and asking a question about radios. What radio should I buy? I'm studying for my technician license. And I have a confirmed date of when I'm going to take my technician license. And the kid posted the confirmed date of his license or her license, their license, when they're going to go take the test for their license. And, the vast majority of the comments were awesome. Hey, and one of them was from me saying, whatever radio works for you, whatever you can afford. Understanding that this is a 13-year-old child and that this child probably, well, their parents are probably going to buy them a radio. So me knowing that or assuming that, I posted, whatever radio works for you. And I got slammed for that. I got slammed for that. Well, why would you? That's misinforming that person. So you're telling me that if I go out as a new amateur and I buy me, I don't know, an ICOM 705 or an ICOM 7100 or I don't know, a Baofeng or an Anytone, one of those radios that, one of the radios that is inexpensive, and a lot of people are down on Chinese radios. I operate my HF radios Chinese. It's a Xiegu G90. It's a wonderful little radio. It works perfect. The only thing is you've got to have bifocals to see the display. It's a little small. But it is also not a QRP radio. It's a 20-watt max radio, and it works wonderful. And there's lots and lots of things that you can buy to make the radio perform the way that you would want it. It lacks a few things, but that's fine. Anyway, so the comments were just, like, okay, well, hey, this is a good radio. This is what I started out as a technician. This is what I started out with as a technician. This radio works good. And that's great, because that's just saying use your imagination. But, me telling this child to buy whatever works was not accepted from certain people. And then some other things that bother me about this hobby is when a person takes their tech, their general, and their extra, and I don't know if they've studied and know everything that there is to know about amateur radio and blah, 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 blah. Who am I to judge? Who am I to say that you don't know what you're supposed to know before you get on the band and start talking? Well, I heard a conversation on 20 meters a little while ago from somebody or some individuals giving this person a hard time because they feel like they don't know enough and they didn't study enough and they should wait before they get their license or before they go and take the next license and then the one after that. Well, I feel that if you're confident enough to take your technician, your general, and your amateur extra at the same time, why not? I'm not you. I don't know what's inside your brain. Who am I to tell you that you're not smart enough to take all three of those at the same time? But when I get on amateur radio and I'm giving out either AG or AE, don't attack me. Don't attack me. Like, how dare you attack me and tell me, well, this is just ridiculous. Well, when did you get your license? And they look you up and, you went from this, and this, or this, and whatever. Who are you to attack me and tell me that I'm this, that, or the other? So that's one of the things that bothers me about amateur radio. Then there's a lot of guys out there that I'm on 10 meters monitoring. And who are you to tell me that I'm not educated enough to be out here? I'm learning. I'm learning how to use HF. I studied. I learned certain things, but I'm applying what I've learned. And you're my Elmers. When you get out there and you talk to these other people and you listen to them, those are your Elmers. Those are people that are going to help you continue your amateur radio hobby and teach you. So that's just being practical. And, you guys don't attack people like that. That's so uncool and unwelcoming. You know, it's like I don't know. I'm trying to be clean because I want children to be able to watch this, and you know, I want to be clean because I just want people to enjoy my podcast. And you know, I have a tendency to use some colorful language from time to time, and I don't really want to do that. I want everybody to be able to enjoy this podcast. So um, I'm bringing this up. So if you look at your monitor, if you're watching the this podcast, this stuff right here, I watch a lot of videos on TikTok, and I have a tendency to critique some things that are put out there on TikTok. I want to say it's false information, and maybe in a 3-minute video is not the best idea to tell people things about amateur radio that are not true. So yes, as a technician, you know, because you took the test and you're Elmering somebody else, I guess would be the proper way to say it. You're Elmering somebody. It's very important not to give false information. So in a 3-minute video, you can't fully explain what happens and all the bands that you have privilege in, where you know you can and can't operate, and the amount of wattage. So 1500 watts is true, but not in all the areas that you can operate as a technician. So obviously 10 meters you're not allowed to run 1500 watts. You're also only allowed SSB, and you can also do some CW in that area, but you're not allowed to run 1500 watts. You're only allowed 200 watts PEP. That's it. 2 meters, 70 centimeters, and 1.25 meters. You're not allowed to do 1500 watts on every area of that, and especially in 1.25 meters. And in a portion of 70 centimeters, you're not allowed to do 1500 watts. And also the other thing to learn is that you ever bought a 1500 watt FM only amplifier? You can do single sideband in 2 meters, only a portion. And you ever bought an amp that is workable in 2 meters and FM? It's expensive. Go look at it. I mean, I know there's RM Italy amps that you know, work in that area, and anyway, it's a very, very, very expensive hobby. So going forward with this, just learning a little bit more before you do a video that tells people that you're allowed to do 1500 watts as a technician. Yes, you are allowed to do 1500 watts as a technician, but in not in all portions of where you do have privileges. Little did you know that you're also allowed privileges in 80. You're allowed privileges in 15. You're allowed privileges, or you have privileges in 40, but only a very, very small percentage of that, and it's no voice. It's all yeah, it's CW, and yeah. So it you do have privileges in those areas, and just you should know that, and you should also know that you're not completely allowed to run 1500 watts in some of those specified areas, and it's not all voice. But anyway, that's somebody just trying to put content on their TikTok video and get viewers. So I try to keep my videos very informative, and I don't want to give you false information and tell you, hey, go out and buy yourself an amplifier and operate in areas, you know, and run 1500 watts on this band and this band and that area where you have privileges as a technician. But knowing where you can run 1,500 watts is very, very, very important. So, yeah, most of your stuff is going to be FM only. And go look at the price of an amp that'll run in 2 meters and in 6 meters and in 1.25 meters, and then come back and watch this video and you'll see why I'm telling you that. Amplifiers are very, very expensive. That's why I only have one amp, and that does HF, and it does 300 watts. And the amp is a piece of crap. It's not a very good amp. And it is 94 degrees, and it's warm in here. So I'm trying to keep this as quick as possible. And I put this, I call it a roadmap. It's the band chart. It's where you have privileges as a technician, as an extra, as a general, and as an advanced, and a novice. All of this area is where you have privileges, and it tells you where you can operate. Some of them will tell you the amount of wattage that you can use, not all of them, so pay attention to that roadmap. And I try to tell people that are new to amateur radio and new to HF that before you go and key up your radio where you have privileges, look at this map. Look at this chart. Don't be too close to the beginning of where you have privileges, and don't be too close to where your privileges end. And you will learn that when you take your tests and you apply that knowledge. So I just wanted to put that out there. So I think it's very, very, very important to be informed before you key that microphone up, and to be careful before you key that microphone up, because I know that if I'm on 20 meters and I know where my privileges start on 20 meters, I know that my privileges as a general go from 14.25 to 14,350. And I don't want to be at the edge, the very far edge of that band. So I'm going to be about 3 kilohertz in, and I'm going to be about 300 or 3 kilohertz in on that band. So I'm not out of my privileges, because people will not, I don't want to say knock at your door, but people will give you a ration if you're transmitting out of band. So where you're, I don't want to say out of band, transmitting out of your privileges at the beginning of your privileges, and out of band at the end of your privileges. So, you know, there's things in that area where you shouldn't talk. I mean, that's what the FCC says. That's why you studied for your license. So there's, be careful. So, and as far as those mean old hams that are mean to you, take it with a grain of salt. They're your Elmer, and they're going to be mean to you. So, some of them, not all of them. Some of them are going to be mean to you. So, areas. I had a couple of questions on my TikTok. What all bands have I worked? 6 meter, or no, I have not worked 6 meters. Sorry. Well, first and foremost, areas where I haven't worked 160. I haven't touched 630 meters, and I have not touched 2,000. What is that? 2,200 megahertz? Is that what it is? I can't even see it. It's so small to me. I'll bring it up here on my monitor. Yeah, 2,200 meters. Have not worked that. I have not worked 630 meters. 1 watt EIRP. No, I've never worked that band, and I've never worked 630 meters, which is 5 watts. I've never done that. I've never worked 33 centimeters, and I've never worked 23 centimeters. Never worked any of that. I've never worked 6. So all the other bands that I have privileges in, except for those, I've worked all of them. Actually, no, I have not worked 160. I worked 60, but I have not worked 160. let's put it this way. Look up 160 meters. How long is that? About 200 feet, something like that. Yeah, that's a big, big, big antenna. And yes, you can work it, but I don't have a piece of, well, I have a big piece of property, but I don't have that much room for a wire. My 40 and 80 meter wire basically covers the front and back of my property. That's as much wire as I want on my property right now. So that's a big chunk of the yard. So anyway, I guess that's about it for me. Hopefully you learned something from my podcast, and yeah, have a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun, amateur radio, and I also wanted to mention that, yes, I do use CB radio, and there's some people out there that if you mention that you used Citizens Band radio on the bands, on amateur bands, they will give you a ration of doo-doo. They will give you a ration. And I don't want to say 100% of the people that are amateurs now, but a big, big, large majority of people that are using amateur used to be CB radio guys. So don't forget where you came from, and don't be a jerk. And have fun. Don't be afraid to key that microphone up and get out there and start rag chewing. Wherever you've got privileges, whether you're a technician or a general or an extra, have fun. That's what it's about. Just remember, don't transmit out of where your privileges allow you. A lot of people are doing that. A lot of technicians are talking in areas of 40 meters where they're not licensed to operate. And you get in trouble for that. Believe it or not, out there on those HF bands, there are people that will listen to you. There is a volunteer monitoring program out there, and they do monitor. They do, and you will get in trouble. People will turn you in, and you will get in trouble. You'll get a warning letter. That does still exist. Maybe not in, maybe not in 2 meters. Maybe not in those areas, where most technicians operate. But I'm talking about the guys that do have privileges in those areas. And as a technician, you should know where you're supposed to operate. So anyway, I'm babbling. I just be careful, have fun, and it's a lot of fun. So anyway, this is the N6PUD podcast, the Broke Amateur guy here for Friday, 4/8/2020. And I just make it a quick one. And I hope you guys have a wonderful day. And thank you. And, go check out my site and my TikTok and all that other crap. Have fun and enjoy amateur radio. 7-3. And all that other good stuff. So, I guess that's about it for me. And we'll end the podcast here. And hopefully, you guys learned something from this podcast. I hope to God you did. Anyway, 7-3.